Let's jump right in. Number 5, the inciting incident. The inciting incident is a ball of unexpected chaos that has come into your protagonist's life. This knocks them off balance. It takes what they were doing before, what they were planning on doing, and it knocks it out of balance. The inciting incident has to be something unavoidable that the protagonist has to deal with. There's no way around it. So, where does this chaos come from? Where does this inciting incident come from? The source is antagonism. Now remember, the antagonist does not mean the villain or the bad guy. It can, but it doesn't always mean that. At the beginning of your story, the protagonist is pursuing what they want, and anything that gets in between them and what they want is antagonism. And here's the thing, the inciting incident can be bad, like an attack, or getting fired from your job, or a bomb threat, or a breakup. But an inciting incident can also be a good thing, like meeting the love of your life or getting offered a job. It's like this. The protagonist is going along in their life thinking they know what's going to happen next, just doing their thing. Then antagonism gets in the way and forces them to do something different. So the inciting incident is a force of antagonism that throws a ball of chaos into your protagonist's well-planned life. And the antagonist wants something too. They want the protagonist to do something they don't want to do. We're going to play this out in 3 different scenarios. The first, a guy loses his job. That's the inciting incident. The second, a woman meets a man of her dreams, only it's not the man that is currently her boyfriend. And third, a woman is hiking through the jungle and a tiger starts chasing her. So what happens when you get fired? Well, you want to keep your job without having to sacrifice your dignity. What happens when you meet the love of your life, but you're already in a relationship? Well, you want to pursue them without letting go of the current relationship. And when you come across a tiger that wants to eat you in the jungle, you want to get away without being eaten. Number 4, progressive complications and turning point. Because of the inciting incident, your protagonist now has a problem. They have to deal with this force of antagonism, and they start trying to do different things so that they don't actually have to deal with the source of antagonism. So when they hit the source of a problem, sometimes your protagonist tries to go around the problem. Sometimes they just try to go straight through the problem. Sometimes they try to negotiate so they don't have to deal with it. And sometimes they start begging and pleading to not deal with this problem. Basically, the protagonist does everything they can think of to get what they want until they reach the turning point. And the turning point is where the protagonist says, no, I'm not going to do what the antagonist wants. So he says, I'm not leaving the office. I'm not accepting being fired. So to this man that she's met, she offers to just stay friends so she can keep both relationships in her life. And for the person running from the tiger, she reaches the edge of a cliff and turns back because she doesn't want to jump. She's not going to keep running. Now, the natural result of this turning point is, number 3, the crisis. It's the ultimatum. It comes from the antagonist, and it forces a choice between A or B, a choice between 2 decisions that have irreversibility into it, meaning both of the decisions have really high consequences. Because up until this point, your protagonist is trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want to get what they want without having to give something else up. Now, there has to be downsides on both sides, because if we put our protagonist in between drinking poison and eating a piece of cake, well, that's kind of silly. But if you have a protagonist choose between drinking poison or saving the love of their life, now it's interesting. They're choosing between 2 things that have really high consequences. And here's the thing. The worse you make a decision for the protagonist, meaning the stakes are as high as possible, the more the reader will care about what is going on in your story. So the boss replies and says, you can either leave on your own or I'm going to call security and drag you out. And that forces the crisis on the man between leaving and staying. For the woman in love, He says, I'm not willing to just be your friend. If you won't leave your boyfriend for me, then I'm going to move and take that job in New York City. And so that is the crisis. She has to choose between the two people. And for the woman on the edge of a cliff, the tiger starts running straight at her. And so she's forced into this crisis of either jump or stay and fight the tiger. So that crisis leads to number two, the climax. And the climax is when the protagonist acts on their decision. So the crisis presents the decision, and then the protagonist has to act on that decision. They have to choose either A or B. They actually have to take the jump, and it has to be a no going back action. If the climax decision is easy for them to go back on, then the reader won't care. So in our first scenario, he says, screw you, I'm not leaving, call security if you want. And the second one, she decides she's going to break up with her boyfriend so she can be with the love of her life. And in the third one, she turns and leaps off the cliff. That is the climax where everybody makes the decision and they act on the decision, which then leads to the resolution. And the resolution is a simple question of, well, what happens as a result of the protagonist's climactic action? What do the other characters do? What happens in the setting around them? In our first scenario, security picks him up, and drags him out of the office kicking and screaming. In the second one, they end up living happily ever after together. And then in the end, the tiger stops running at the edge of the cliff and she plunges safely into the water. So each of those has a natural resolution that comes because of the action that they took. So why does this matter? Why do you have to have all five commandments in your story? Well, stories are about change. If there's no change in your story, that means nothing's happening. That means the readers won't care. Stories are about change, and the five commandments of storytelling are how you ensure you have something meaningful change in your story. Now, when we're talking about changes in your story, what are we talking about? Well, the five commandments operate kind of like Russian nesting dolls. You have to have the global five commandments that covers the entire story. Then if you zoom down onto a single act within your story, you also have to have the full five commandments. Then you can look at a sequence of scenes and make sure the five commandments are there. And then you have to have the full five commandments in every single scene. If you want to write a working story, you must have an inciting incident, turning point, crisis, climax, and resolution at every level of your story. That's it for today. If you want to apply the five commandments to your own writing, I recommend visiting storygrid.com/workshop. We've dedicated the last 10 years studying how to help writers build the skills and write a novel they are proud to publish. We've changed the lives of hundreds of writers. To learn more, visit storygrid.com/workshop. I'm going to keep doing more videos like this, so make sure you subscribe and like this video so that you get notified of the next one. If you want to know more about me and StoryGrid, it's down in the description. See you next time.